Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We're broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related political issues, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, then ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday at around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Our audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That is bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, 702-257-1060. Again, that is 702-257-1060. And remember, if you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by any mainstream media. I always select a few for each show for my listeners' education. Most of the cases I use are good shootings. Some are questionable, and occasionally I use one that's just plain bad. But they're all educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. So the advice given here may not apply in your area where you live. Advice from a local gun savvy, that's an important thing in there, defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased by me for clarity by translation from police jargon, what I commonly call lawyer speak, and regional accents into more standard American English. The incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and the media people are generally used. So, this first story, we get through all of that. This first story comes from WTSP TV 10, reported on July 10, 2020 in West Chapel, Florida. 3 armed intruders targeted the wrong home when they broke into a Florida gun enthusiast's home early Friday morning. The homeowner was awake playing video games when he heard glass shatter just before 1 in the morning. Investigators say he grabbed a gun and walked to the back of his house. He found a masked intruder in the hallway pointing a gun at him. The homeowner fired his gun, striking that intruder. A second intruder, also pointing a gun toward the homeowner, was behind the first one. The homeowner then shot him, and he fell to the floor as well. The homeowner saw a third intruder and fired, but his gun jammed. He grabbed another gun, but the intruder had left. The homeowner got a phone call from a neighbor who told him he was holding that third intruder, apparently, at gunpoint. Deputies were called to the scene. The 2 invaders were pronounced dead at the scene. The names of the 2 invaders who died will be released after family notification. The third would-be robber, age 19, was taken to a hospital for treatment. That 19-year-old was later arrested and charged with 2 counts of second-degree homicide and 1 count of home invasion robbery. The Pasco County Sheriff said he is accountable for the deaths because it was during the commission of a felony that he was involved in that those two people died. That's Pasco Sheriff Chris Narco. Sheriff Narco added that the 2 deceased intruders had extremely violent criminal histories. The surviving 19-year-old had a previous arrest for battery. The homeowner believes he was targeted because he is a gun enthusiast and posts pictures of his firearms on social media. That was reported by WTSP SPTV10. Comments on this. The felony murder rule provides that accomplices' deaths are chargeable as murder, so this 19-year-old can be charged with 2 counts of murder. The victim here puts pictures of his gun collection on social media. He has a home defense gun that jams. Lots of things here. Always check your defensive firearm that it works with the ammo you carry in it. This is a normal part of practice to keep up your skills for emergencies. Back many years ago when I was actively teaching a number of students coming into carry permit classes who commented that they hadn't fired their guns since their last renewal 5 years ago, ran about 20%. That is really foolish. If you don't keep up your skills, when you suddenly need them, they aren't going to work. And a comment here about testing your gun. If you don't test the gun with the ammo that you're carrying in it, so many people get some hot new ammo they saw on the internet and it's got to be the best thing. So they load it in their gun, and when they really need it, they discover it jams their gun. Test the gun. Anyway, we'll go on here. This next story is from KLEM TV, a reporter named Melissa Papanek. I know I'm saying that wrong. Reported July 8th, 2020 in Blue Lake, California. Humboldt County Sheriffs said a 39-year-old employee of the Patriot gas station on Blue Lake Boulevard shot a man who was robbing the business on the night of July 2nd. Deputies said around 9:45 p.m., the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to a report of a possible armed robbery with shots fired. Deputies found a 53-year-old man on the ground outside the business with a gunshot wound to the chest. Despite medical efforts, he died at the scene. The sheriff's office identified the man who was killed as a 53-year-old from Santa Rosa through his fingerprints. The gas station employee had initially been arrested on murder charges that night and was booked on a no bail status. There's a story here. The deputy said they learned the 53-year-old approached the employee and a patron who were outside the business, displaying what appeared to be a gun. The 39-year-old employee and the bystander ran, and the robber proceeded with his robbery of the business. The 53-year-old robber was shot as he left the business. Investigators interviewed witnesses and reviewed surveillance footage inside the business. The gas station did not have functioning surveillance cameras outside where the shooting occurred. Now, I have to explain here. From the pictures, this appears to be not a gas station in the conventional sense. It's like a small building that is a booth with no inside access to customers. And you can come up and hand through the window your credit cards or buy a pack of cigarettes and they'll hand them to you through the little drawer. But it isn't really a gas station building in the sense it's a large booth sitting on the property, which will explain that employees that were outside, they went outside to smoke because they wanted to be off the camera, because if they smoke on duty, they get fined and all that sort of thing. Anyway, according to deputies, the 39-year-old employee denied shooting the suspect in his initial statement and provided information inconsistent with the evidence at the scene. Through further investigation, deputies determined the employee shooter made efforts to conceal the gun before law enforcement arrived. A bullet consistent with the evidence collected at the scene was located in the employee's pocket during a search of his person. I presume they mean a cartridge rather than a bullet, as in the story. On July 7, the employee admitted he shot the robbery suspect and said it was in self-defense. Humboldt County District Attorney Maggie Fleming has declined to prosecute the employee of the Patriot gas station in Blue Lake for killing the person who robbed the business on the night of July 2nd, 2020. The employee had stated he acted in self-defense. No witness statements or other evidence contradict that assertion. The employee also stated he possessed a gun in response to the recent prior robbery at his workplace. In reaching her decision and before the person arrested had to be either charged or released, within 2 days of their arrest, the DA benefited from a complete and efficient investigation by the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. Officials have also determined the deceased robber is a possible suspect in another robbery the same week. The investigation into that case is ongoing. This is an incredibly unusual event. I wrote in my notes, where do you start, Bob? There is a question as to whether the robber had a real firearm. That was in the initial statements, but is not detailed out at all in the report so far. However, if the bad guy claims or gestures that he has a firearm, victims are certainly allowed to believe him. If they put their finger in their pocket like it's a gun, you're permitted to believe the guy is armed. The appearance of a valid shooting, even given California's harsh view of armed robberies, this appears to be a valid shooting. Even given California's harsh armed defense laws, lying to responding officers and later on in the investigation is really stupid. The crime scene investigators will reconstruct the events. If you choose not to speak to the facts, that's fine. Wait until your lawyer is there. Making up stuff is never a good idea. You will end up in jail until the investigators finish their work, as did this guy. They were holding him on no bail, so he got a couple of days in jail to think about, is it really smart when you shoot in self-defense to lie to the police? Idiot. Anyway, we're going to break now for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Don't go away. This is a reminder to all our listeners. Keystone Corporation, it's a conservative organization that I'm on their board of directors, is having their annual dinner on Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The featured speaker is Karl Rove. It is at the Venetian Hotel. For information, you can visit online to www.keystonenevada.com and get all the information. Tables are available for groups, and Karl Rove is an amazing commentator. You don't want to miss this. It is going to be the conservative event of the year. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies-only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And I am back. Note to Governor Sisolak, I have my face mask here if somebody walks into the room, so I can put it on and you don't take me to jail. This is from WSRP, Fox 55 in Champaign, Illinois. They reported July 7, 2020, a shooting that took place on 11th Street earlier, a few days earlier, when a 29-year-old tried to forcibly enter a residence in the 1400 block of North 11th Street. This happened at 3:30 in the morning on Tuesday, July 7. Witnesses told authorities that when the 29-year-old arrived at the residence, he repeatedly banged on the door and threatened violence. Witnesses also said the 29-year-old went to a bedroom window and forced an air conditioning unit through it in order to gain entry to the residence. He pushed the air conditioner into the house. At this time, the 26-year-old resident allegedly fired a gun toward the window, striking the would-be home invader. Sangamon County State's attorney said a female resident was also present at the time of the reported forced entry. She is the named victim in a pending felony case against the 29-year-old for unlawful violation of an order of protection. So she's in the house, she's got a protective order, this is the guy the order is against, to simplify all the legalese. Under the Illinois State Criminal Code, a person is justified in use of deadly force when a person reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another during the commission of a forcible felony. That's just to quote their statute. Due to the circumstances, police said the resident discharged the firearm to prevent the forcible felony of a home invasion. Additionally, investigation by the Springfield Police Department indicates the 29-year-old attempted to enter the residence in a violent, riotous, and tumultuous manner following the threats of violence. Therefore, the 26-year-old resident believed deadly force was necessary to prevent an assault upon or offer personal violence to him or another then in the dwelling. As a result, no additional charges related to the shooting will be filed at this time. Nice to see the police and all these people come to the defense here. The 29-year-old perp is in charge with armed habitual criminal. That's with being but that's the statute I'm quoting. Charged with armed habitual criminal, a Class 10 felony, and unlawful possession of a weapon by a felon, a Class 2 felony. The 29-year-old has been convicted of 2 forcible felonies, residential burglary in 2012, aggravated battery with great bodily harm in 2018. He was on parole at the time of the shooting and turned himself into the Springfield police on July 7. Good idea. You remember the statistic I use a lot that says 5% of the population commit 95% of the time? And 95% of the crime. The perp here was clearly one of those who simply needs to be locked up forever. Best case would be he's an alien, so ICE could just drop him off in his country of legal residence. That's a lot less expensive. You can send me comments on that. There's another story that comments on that here later on. Okay, this next story. From WKOK Radio, a reporter named John Boig reported July 11, 2020 in Hummel's Wharf, Pennsylvania. Authorities say the suspect of Friday's deadly shooting at a Buffalo Wings stalked and was planning to kill a Traverton woman who died from the injuries later that night. A Sunbury man was also identified as the one who shot the suspect, putting him in serious condition. This is a really complicated story, so follow along. Court documents say the 55-year-old perp wrote a letter detailing his plan to kill the 46-year-old victim before the fatal shooting in the restaurant parking lot. The letter was found in the attacker's vehicle after a search warrant was executed. Included in the plotted killing was a GPS tracker that was found underneath his victim's vehicle parked at the restaurant. He now faces murder charges for the killing of her and her 52-year-old male acquaintance that was with him. Documents say that prior to the shooting, the female victim had obtained a protection order protection from abuse order, July 1st, which was days before he threatened to kill her. He was also due in district court this week for being charged in that incident. Court papers say the couple were on a date at Buffalo Wild Wings when the witnesses saw them embrace underneath an umbrella in the parking lot. This was before the stalker drove into the lot and began shooting at the victims. Then, as the shooter was returning to his truck, court records say a 49-year-old armed citizen came out of the restaurant and fired 3 or 4 shots at the suspect. Schneider County District Attorney Mike Piekuch, I'm saying that wrong, it's Piekuch, you can try your own pronunciation, said the accused cannot be arraigned for the murder charges because he's in serious critical condition with his gunshot wounds. The state police have released no other information about the incident except to say there is no danger to the public. It was all internally, they're not looking for anybody. Comments here, an armed citizen being at the right place at the right time. I always advise to let the cops handle it if there is time. The attacker was way beyond the normal when it comes to domestic violence cases. The attacker here was a truly dangerous criminal. The amount of planning that went into these murders is absolutely staggering. As in the previous story, locking this guy up forever is required. He can never be allowed to walk the streets of America again. Can you imagine putting a tracker on her vehicle so he could follow her on his phone wherever she went? Anyway, we're going to break now for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. This is a reminder to all our listeners. Keystone Corporation, it's a conservative organization that I'm on their board of directors, is having their annual dinner on Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The featured speaker is Karl Rove. It is at the Venetian Hotel. For information, you can visit online to www.keystonenevada.com. and get all the information. Tables are available for groups, and Karl Rove is an amazing commentator. You don't want to miss this. It is going to be the conservative event of the year. And we are back. There are a lot of old media stories popping up this week about old Joe Biden comments as he was about using a shotgun for home defense. I'm going to go through a couple of them. On February 27, 2013, interview with Field and Stream magazine, Then Vice President Joe Biden once again touted shotguns as the best weapon for home defense, offering advice similar to the questionable instructions he gave during the Facebook town interview the previous week. This is to quote, "If there's ever a problem," Biden said he told his wife, "just walk out on the balcony here, walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun, and fire 2 blasts outside the house." Field and Stream asked the vice president whether the so-called assault rifles and high-capacity clips, which the administration wants banned, should be allowed for self-defense and target practice. He said, "Well, the way in which we measure it, I think most scholars would say that as long as you have a weapon sufficient to be able to provide your self-defense." I did one of these town hall meetings on the internet, and one guy said, "Well, what happens when the end of days come? What happens if there's an earthquake? I live in California. I have to protect myself." Biden said that he replied, "Well, you know, my shotgun will do better for you than your AR-15 because you want to keep someone away from your house. Just fire the shotgun through the door. Most people can handle a shotgun a hell of a lot better than they can a semi-automatic weapon in terms of both their aim and the terms of their ability to deter people coming." We can argue that whether or not that's true, but it's no argument that, for example, a shotgun could do the same job of protecting you. Now, granted, you can come back and say, well, a machine gun would do a better job of protecting me. No one's arguing that we should make machine guns legal. I have to explain here to the vice president that machine guns actually are legal, just not in his mind. This is the same presidential candidate who says he will make Beto O'Rourke his cabinet-level gun czar to eliminate all semi-automatic firearms and any clip, he's referring to magazines, that hold more than a few cartridges in the United States. My comments on Joe Biden, I'm sure everyone can see them coming. Joe Biden has pledged to destroy the human right of self-defense if he is elected president. This election is absolutely the most important one ever. Criminals are being let out of jail by the hundreds because of the Chinese flu. They're now spreading the flu to the general public instead of other prisoners and are driving up our violent crime rates to a staggering level. The only rational way to save America is to vote a conservative ballot top to bottom. Pro-Americans must win at all levels, federal, state, and local. If you've noticed with this virus stuff and opening schools, the local governments are the ones doing the biggest amount of damage, particularly here in Nevada with our governor. But it is up to us. You must vote for the conservative candidates all the way down the ballot. It is crucially important that you do that, or we will lose the America we know. Please take that to heart. Register and vote for the conservative candidates in your district. That's generally the Republicans. The Blue Dog Democrats have kind of disappeared. What we used to call that was a conservative Democrat. No longer. They've all joined the Marxist movement to destroy America, as far as I can tell. Hope you take this to heart. We'll be back next week with another edition and updates on this stuff. Once again, have a good afternoon.